Bill Meis and his wife Elaine come home to America. His family wait to welcome him. 7 years ago, he went to Canada rather than serve in Vietnam, a war he thought immoral. Now his exile is over. President Ford has offered the 50,000 war resistors an amnesty. But Bill Meis is coming home to challenge the president's offer. His parents are excited but apprehensive. They know their son may end up in jail.
Like that.
It's okay. Are you okay?
Jamie.
I don't think I'm going to do it.
Bill's family saw President Ford pardon Richard Nixon unconditionally. They then saw him offer the war resistors only a conditional amnesty. They can return if they perform 2 years of alternative service doing low-paid community work. The war resistors have rejected the proposal. They feel, like Bill, that they've done nothing wrong. Only a handful have returned. Bill Meis has done so, but only to challenge the concept of conditional amnesty. He will refuse to do the alternative service.
You'll sleep well tonight.
We're just joyous, you know. You just think and think and think that the day will never come, really. You know, it's been so long and we wish so hard. It's kind of unbelievable.
I think for me it's meant being separated from everything that made me the kind of person that I am. And the loneliness and pain of not being able to touch those things has been very difficult for me.
I'm frightened for him, of course. Very proud of him. Very proud of him. I don't know why you asked me if we wanted to see you, if we were supporting you. Why did you need to ask?
Maybe I needed to hear you say it.
And how do you feel, Bill, about what you're about to do?
Frightened, but also that it's something that I have to do.
The exiles must first surrender to the United States authorities. The day after his return, Bill Meis gave himself up. He did what he said he would. He refused to perform the alternative service. He was charged in court and photographed and fingerprinted for the FBI's files. The press awaited the outcome of this, the first test case of amnesty. He was released on bail and now awaits his trial in a few weeks' time. If convicted, he faces 5 years in jail.
The only statement I can make at this time is that I was arrested and arraigned. Bond was set and I'm free on bond. At this point, I'm in the judicial process, and my attorneys have asked me not to comment anymore at this point. And I feel that that's what I should do.
But what are your plans for the immediate future?
I will be with my family in Decatur.
His family were relieved it was over, at least for the moment.
It was a bit of a shock to being fingerprinted was hard. I don't know why. Having my picture taken, to realize that in some ways I am a criminal was a bit hard, but I feel good. I feel it was the right thing.
I was at the back of the courtroom, and to stand there and see your child, who is of course a man, but he's still my child, standing there in front of the judge, that kind of got to me.
Dr. Meis.
I'm very relieved that the procedure's over with. I realize the last chapter hasn't been written yet, but we're very hopeful. Things are going to turn out the way we've been hoping they would all along.
I guess I'm just awfully glad he's going to be able to go home with us, and I'm going to be able to get his dinner tonight for the first time in a long time.
Bill Meis knows that his hometown, Decatur, Illinois, will judge him far more swiftly than the courts. And it's the verdict of Decatur that means most to Bill Meis personally, because that's where his roots are. Watching a football game at his old college, Millikan, is part of the America he has missed.
Millikan's got a good team this year. It's kind of nice, really, to be back in and to see it. It's a very much a hometown crowd. I think it's Dad's day today, and so there's really a lot of people here. I'm surprised, but that's good. This is very much the sort of town Decatur is. Very comfortable, very relaxed, small, and yet in many ways they do everything that everyone else does all across America. This isn't all of America, no, but this is a lot of what America is. It's kind of a good side of America. These are my roots.
Well, when I was walking up and heard the cheerleaders and the band and everything, it does bring back all kinds of memories, because I went to the University of Illinois and always went to the football games and, you know, did it in high school and so on. So it really is something I hadn't thought about missing, but when I'm here, I realize it's something I haven't, you know, experienced in a long time.
Decatur is an island of 80,000 people stuck in the middle of the Great Grain Belt that stretches across the Midwest of America. It is, it proudly announces, the soybean capital of the world. Decatur feeds America. America is a land of big cities and little Decaturs, and like little boxes, they all look just the same. When Decatur passes judgment on Bill Meis, it will say what a large part of America feels, an America that is deeply conservative and deeply religious. The Meises have always lived in Decatur. For many years, Dr. Meis has looked after the town's teeth. The Meises are pillars of Decatur society, middle class, respectable, and respected.
Out here?
Yeah.
And this side.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's from families like Bill's that many of the draft dodgers came, families of the American middle class that had the money and the time to support their sons in exile. Bill's parents are, to say the least, comfortably off. It took them a long time to come to terms with his decision to evade his call-up and go to Canada.
I don't think I understood Bill's reason, and I know I didn't understand his motives, and so we were really terribly upset. Our whole family was upset. I think I must have wept buckets. I, very frankly, didn't agree with him, and of course did everything I could as a mother to dissuade him.
I felt that he should submit himself to being drafted and being taken into service and take his chances on what channels he would be fitted into.
I don't think I was ashamed of him. I don't believe that. But I wasn't going to go out and just tell everybody about it either.
I was just perplexed because I felt that he was doing something foolish.
I like to think that I'm very loyally an American. I remember Dr. Meis and I were on an occasion down in Florida, and they played the national anthem, and I don't know when I've been so shaken, because it was so beautiful, and we were all standing there singing the national anthem, and I thought, here I am singing the national anthem about a country that won't even allow my son to come into it.
So for 7 years, Bill and Elaine lived in Canada. Family snapshots were all that grandparents saw of children born in exile. Bill did social work, Elaine taught. They bought a house, but Canada could never be home.
I have a very nice house, for what that's worth. Good life. A great deal of security and peace. It's lonely living in exile, no matter how well you adapt. I think those of us who did what we did have to translate that experience back into American terms. Can't do that in Canada. You know, can't do it. I don't want to be told that what I did had no value. It had no meaning, because I know that it did.
Your country demanded that you should fight that war as a member of that country, and you refused to do that.
Well, if they're going to take my life, or my arm, or my foot, or my eye, I think I have the right to ask that they give me a good enough reason for that.
Wasn't draft evasion really the easy way out?
It didn't seem very easy to me at the time or for the past 6.5 years. And it's only now that we ask the American people to look at what we've done and to not forgive us, but to let us come back and be part of American life again.
Why don't you accept President Ford's offer of amnesty?
Well, it's not an amnesty offer. It demands of me that I ask forgiveness of America for standing against what was our greatest national tragedy. You know, I don't. In a sense, it gives no dignity, no justice to anything that we did. And I cannot understand why they want to see me in jail, why they want to see me performing alternative service, why they want to ask from me punishment. I really don't understand that.
Now that Bill Meis had come home, how would Decatur react? How would the town welcome the prodigal son who had returned and refused to repent? Spiritual leaders offered only a grudging acceptance. Their welcome for Bill Meis was as ambiguous as the lines of scripture they chose as their text.
Thank you, choir. Our city, Decatur, Illinois, has known an unusual amount of publicity in these days as one of the young men who grew up here in our city has returned from Canada, his self-chosen exile, during the recent Vietnam conflict. Our concern, obviously, as Christian believers in this matter, is expressed very clearly in the book of Romans, where we are told to do that which our nation directs, and those who are submissive to God, as long as it does not conflict with personal conscience and personal belief, that they should serve their country and serve their country well.
For others in the church, the return of Bill Meis was an insult to the memory of the 3 members of the congregation who died in Vietnam. Only a few months before the war ended, the Wiley family lost their oldest son, Rick. Rick was the last boy from Decatur to die.
That's a picture of Ricky sitting in the helicopter, and he looks worn, drawn, tired. And we received it the 14th day of June in 1972. Before we received the telegram, the 15th June of 72, he'd been shot down and flew on an observation helicopter. I feel like that he died because he loved his country, and he loved his country, the flag, he loved his family, and he felt like that this war was a stepping stone to the United States. Because communist countries were taking over, and we were sitting back not doing nothing.
He probably died for his brothers and sisters. That's about the extent of it. He died for his country, all right, but how the country could be so divided over a war like this. It just isn't right.
Are you in favor of amnesty for those people who chose not to serve in Vietnam?
As far as I'm concerned, they're like a collaborator to the Communist Party. That's the way I feel about it. I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel. If they had stayed in this country, the commies would have seen how strong this country was. I believe this war would have been over a long time ago.
Are you bitter about Bill Meis coming back to Decatur?
He threw his citizenship away. When this war was on, he left his country. That's just like a crew member leaving a ship when it's sinking. But he left, as far as I'm concerned, he left, and he can stay up there. That's the way I feel about it. I can't feel any other way.
We have to work. We don't have time to sit in and marching. We've got to work. We have no loopholes to get out of paying taxes. We're taught to respect our flag and our country. We don't have money to run off to Canada. And if our son went to Canada, we sure couldn't help him.
What would you like to say to Bill Meis?
Well, I don't even want to talk to him. I don't even see him. I don't know the man. I've never seen him. I care less. That's what I feel. He's nothing to me, and I'm nothing to him. He's just another draft dodger. I won't even say American. He's just another draft dodger. So, I don't know what to say.
Well, I just say, Bill, we're glad you're back. We know you were lonely, but our family of 5 children, my husband and I, and the grandparents, we're all lonely for our son, too. And we're proud of our son. We just say, thank God for Rick, and the boys like Rick.
Ready?
45 men from Decatur died in Vietnam. The town's war veterans preserve their memory. To them, any amnesty is unacceptable.
There's only about 2 words for anybody that would leave our country and leave us sitting still. I would say yellow guys. I think they were scared.
Well, having been a Vietnam veteran and a Korean veteran both, I can't see how any man with any 1 iota of conscience could go to another country and say, I don't believe in it. I didn't want to go to Korea. I was 39 years old when I went to Vietnam. I was too old, but I went. Any man that goes to another country and then comes back and wants to taste our bread, the bread's not on the table.
Just the idea that you're establishing a precedence. This precedence means that in the future, if we ever get in trouble again, every individual who's drafted has the option of saying, I don't want to go, and they would go someplace else. This is wrong. They either do or they don't, and he didn't, so he's had it.
What would you do if a son of yours did what Bill Meis has done?
Well, I wouldn't do what his dad's doing. My boy would either go or that'd be it. He wouldn't be a son of mine anymore, and that's the way I feel about it.
The most direct test of Decatur's opinion of Bill Meis is the reaction on the local radio phone-in program. The exile confronts the town he had left, the faceless voices of Decatur.
And good afternoon. Welcome again to Midday Telephone Forum. I'm Bill Homoki, and we have a very special program in store for you for the next 45 minutes. Live in the studio this afternoon, Bill and Elaine Meis. Our phone lines are open at 877-5372. Just as soon as you'd like to dial us up, we'll begin taking telephone calls. And Bill and Elaine, welcome home.
Well, thank you very much, Bill. It's nice to be here.
Thank you.
Bill and Elaine Meis are with us on Midday. Your phone calls are most welcome this afternoon. This is Midday.
Mr. Meis, we're not forgetting. We're not forgetting Mr. Bill Meis who ran. It is real hard to forget when you live each day remembering a brother who served his country and was killed by a sniper's bullet. Mr. Meis, we cannot forget you when each day we look down at parts of our own body missing as a result of a foreign country's grenade. We, the sons of Decatur, with roots deep in good old Illinois black earth, would raise our arms again to help our country be strong. In conclusion, Mr. Bill Meis, your roots aren't in Decatur. You're just using the ground to walk on.
I don't in any way mean to imply that What I did is in judgment of the men who served. I think they served honorably, and I'm not questioning the integrity of what they did. I do think that my roots are here, and I think that I also have the right to stand for what I thought was right.
He is not a loyal citizen, and I would say go back to Canada and never get to come back to this country.
You're on the air.
I wonder, why do you have him on today, and why don't we ever have some patriotic Americans on WSOY instead of all these kooks and communists and leftists that you always manage to dig up out of the gutter for the American people here in Decatur to listen to?
You're on the air.
Hello. I'd just like to tell Mr. Meis that I wish that my son could come back to the States and serve prison for a couple of years or alternate service for a couple of years and then come back home and be able to get married and have a family and so forth. But he'll never be able to do that because he was killed in Vietnam serving his country, and I don't think Mr. Meis should be here anymore unless he's willing to do something also. Thank you.
Ma'am, I feel nothing but sadness about what happened to your son, and I can only say again that what I did was an attempt to prevent his death. I hope that I wish somehow I could communicate my sorrow more effectively. I realize that probably what I'm saying is inadequate.
You're on the air.
Our country was not made with his kind of people. I don't know why you don't go back to Canada and stay there. We don't want you, Mr. Meis. You're a dishonor to this country.
Thank you, ma'am.
We weren't attacked by Germany in World War II, and my husband went to that war, and he certainly didn't want to go, but his roots was here. Like Mr. Meis says that his roots are here. They are not. He chopped them off when he left. So why don't he stay in Canada? Thank you.
All righty. Thank you.
And I've said, and I'll say again, that it's not like World War II. It's not like World War I, where there was a clear national need to defend our country and to be involved in the armed service. And those are cases in which I would have served. Yes, I would have. In each country's history, there are unfortunately times where we may be involved in an action that is a mistake. I don't know what else to call it.
You're on midday.
I'd just like to tell Mr. Meis that I support his ideas, and if more people were as humane as he was, we might not have as many wars.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am.
I wish you a good day.
Thank you.
And second, I wish Mr. Meis would go back to Canada. Thank you so very much.
You're on the air.
I had a son that served in Vietnam. I had a brother that served in World War II. And I'm thank God they didn't have a yellow streak down their back. That's it. Thank you. Now, I had a boy that went to Vietnam. He says, knowing what he does, that if he had the same thing to do over, that he'd do just what those boys did that went to Canada. For he said that we had no business over there, and he said that these people didn't want them over there. So I'm all for this, Mr. Meis.
Thank you, ma'am.
That call, a glimmer of hope amidst the hate, came from Mrs. Jane Lindley. Her grandson Darrell is a Vietnam veteran.
I guess my main reason for phoning in was because I didn't like the calls that he'd been getting before I phoned. I didn't like the things that some of the people were saying, as far as to call him a traitor and to his country and things like that, because he must love his country or he wouldn't want to come back.
Mrs. Lindley's grandson Darrell had enlisted in the Marines in 1966. He wanted to fight for his country. He went to Vietnam thinking that the war was right. He changed his mind when he saw what the war was doing to Vietnam and its people. Then he understood why the war resistors had refused to serve.
I completely support Bill. I am a proponent of complete total amnesty. He's forcing the issue, and I'm glad he's forcing the issue. He's saying that you must prove that I did something wrong. He has no guilt. So he shouldn't accept guilt or say that he's guilty by accepting the alternative service. I served there. I went through the hell of the place. I'm speaking from here, from what I felt, from what I saw. And after going through the thing that I don't see how I could have any antagonism toward those who decided morally that they couldn't do it. I think that they were the ones that made the great sacrifices. They were giving up their lifestyle, giving up their homes, their families. They were being forced out. I think they were probably the real heroes.
I think I paid my dues. And I think beyond that, all Americans have paid their dues for what happened over the last 10 years. How long do we have to keep demanding from each other something that no longer has any meaning? You know, I don't place judgment on what any other American did during those 10 years. You know, we all have to come personally to terms with what we did. We've all suffered. We've all gone through a lot of pain. They're the worst years of our lives for any American who's lived through that. It's time to say, let's stop.
He does not deserve to live in our country.
And I think he should admit he's just a coward and go back to Canada, because we don't need him now.
It isn't going to help his father's business, that's for sure.
Well, my husband was in Vietnam for me, and I wish him the best of luck.
Put him back in Canada or someplace worse. Thank you.
I'd like to tell Mr. Meis I think he did the right thing.
That I feel that these men should be able to come back and we can forgive them.